Welcome to Inner and Outer Worlds.
I don't necessarily attribute like 100% truth to anything in general. I think as a scientist, you're kind of trained to always have like a somewhat decision tree of like probabilities of like this could be true with some level of probability. This could be an alternative to that truth. Um, Obviously, there's like some mathematical truths, like a triangle's angles add up to 180 degrees or something. Like there's things that you can state with certainty given like your setup of that. Um, like if you can't do an experiment, I mean, your theory is you're stuck with like string theory or something. Like you're not you're not adequately describing reality. That's basically the scientific worldview, is that you can have all these models, you can write down all the math, and that's a huge part of science. But at the end of the day, for something to be said to be like
Fact.
yeah, so again, we never quite get to like fact or truth in science. It's more so like this is the best model we have up till this point, and potentially it could be proven wrong in the future. That's like the scientific
Paradigms. That's why all scientific paradigms are called theories, because
yeah.
it's
So
the best that we know so far, and it's had enough empirical evidence to prove that this is the best that we know.
so that's a very excellent way of probing the external world, the outer worlds, as we'll call it in this podcast. Um, and I was kind of adamant and like stuck in that worldview for a long time. I still think it's extremely like useful, and you'll get a lot of understanding. Clearly, science has been a huge success. It hasn't been around for too long. Like it around the 1500s was when people were first proposing these ideas. I was kind of stuck in that worldview that like this was the only way to go about it, and I definitely became somewhat nihilistic as a result. And I was definitely an atheist at the same time. I was, like all there is this physical world. If we can't measure something, what's the point of even like talking about it? That's
essentially what nihilism is. Hey, you just don't care about anything.
Yeah, essentially, where there's no like fundamental meaning. It's all kind of just happening. Yeah, so I was caught in that for a long time.
How did you feel internally when you were seeing through that frame?
So at the start, I was like, oh, I've stumbled on pure, like this is all I need. All I need is to acquire new propositional knowledge of the world. Like I just need to learn new facts and scientific truths, and I'll be the happiest person ever. I don't need human relationships. I don't need to have any external things. All I need are these little facts in my head, and I'll be happy. And that made me feel very good at first. But over time, that starts to take a toll on you, I think. Eventually, I realized there's different layers to the scientific worldview that even if you, like, so I personally don't believe, like, with 100% fact that there's like these near-death experiences that are truly reflective of like a heaven or wherever you go after you die. But whereas before I'd say that's zero probability, that's like a delusion that these people are having, I'm much more open to these things. And even if they're not true, the openness to other dimensions of existence is very impactful on feeling fulfilled and meaning in your life.
How so?
I don't think you necessarily need to believe in a god, for instance. You don't need to follow Christianity or Islam or other religions, but those contain very adequate components that aren't like propositional in nature. What that means is like I don't need to believe in the existence of a God who is good, who is all powerful. Like these are propositions. Like it's a proposition that a God exists out there that is influencing our world affairs and all this stuff. Like these are little like facts or something that you believe in.
Beliefs.
But then yeah, so that's like the propositional side of religion, which as an atheist you deny all those propositions. You're like, God doesn't exist.
Blah
blah blah.
I'll jump in on the atheist thing, because when I was atheist, it's like, because I think these people are wrong about God existing, for example, that means there's no truth to be had in anything that they say, and anything that they say is bullshit, so I'm just not going to pay attention.
This is exactly. This is where I'm going with this, is that you discount all the beneficial sides of, for instance, even participating in a shared belief is extremely powerful. Like that in itself can give you so much meaning. Like even it doesn't have to be religious belief. It can be belief in your country. Like let's say
or your sports team even.
Or your sports team. Let's say you're getting conscripted to war and you believe in the patriotism of your country. Like my country is good, and I'm going to defend my country and its citizens. You will have meaning inherently. I think that almost defines the meaning in your life in that moment, and you will go to war for your country. I think right now in many aspects we have lost religious meaning, we've lost nationalist meaning, we've lost a lot of types of meaning in our lives.
That's an interesting one that you bring up with war, because that can be also the dark side of meaning, where you believe so much in your country that you're willing to kill for it and put an end to the freedom of other beings, and this is the name of your so this is actually cause. Where so Nietzsche in like the 1800s had proclaimed God as dead. Like God is dead and we have killed him. And all the atheists are like, yeah, go Nietzsche, we killed God, fuck yeah. But what Nietzsche's really saying is like, do you realize what we have done? We have killed like the meaning.
We've killed the meaning. There will now be
people saw as meaning.
Right. So this will descend into like nihilism and replacements for that meaning. Like we'll get, I don't know if he stated this explicitly, but it's somewhat implied in this, that things like nationalist meaning, people like tyrants like Hitler and whatnot, like if you look into these like Nietzschean prophecy type things, it's quite jarring and scary, like how much was foreseen. Like this was in like I think the late 1800s, and then shortly after, like 30 to 50 years after, are these two world wars. Just having some practice, some like openness to a spiritual side of life is super meaningful. Literally, like that gives you meaning in your life. You don't have to have that propositional belief in these gods. I don't have to believe in like, you know, the new age beliefs of like a creator or like this cosmic consciousness and stuff. But if I'm more open to what you're saying, and that's what I'm going to be in this podcast as a scientist, like I think that's only better for me. And this is what, after probably 10-20 minutes of me discussing this is like the core of the disclaimer I'm giving to scientific minded people, is that you don't have to take things that Zach says literally or as truth, but if you just come along for the ride, I think that's going to be the core and most important thing. Is it's like reading poetry. It's like you're not necessarily taking the words literally. It's like you're letting what your mind flows through these words. You're letting that influence your internal mind and shape your frameworks and reality and whatnot.
And to dislodge us from the frameworks we see life through.
Exactly, yeah. It's so easy to, like, when I was in that atheist nihilist scientific person state. I thought I was open-minded. I was like, oh, I'm so open-minded to things, but I think that's just delusional. And I think people can get easily caught in delusions like that. So
me too, even like seeing things through a spiritual lens has made me seem like I or we as a new age collective have more more basis in the world because we're the ones coming from a place of love instead of needing scientific facts to build off. And if you're coming too much from any walk of life, I feel like it creates too much pride and you become closed-minded and too focused within those limited parameters of life, when really all of that's bullshit, and you need to just keep an open mind with all things, because there's truth in all things, and trust your ability and your judgment to take the things that you believe are good and can serve your own life and the lives of those around you in a beneficial way.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of what avenue is bringing you those truths, it doesn't matter. It just, as long as you trust yourself to be able to put your own filter on things, that you can either adopt into your own life or let go of, then you're gonna walk away a better person, as long as you keep that open
and
mind.
like at the end of the day, like I think you can believe whatever you want, just don't be a dick, just be nice to people.